All right, so here we are with my first real list review on the channel. So we're just going to kind of run right through it, and I'll give you my thoughts on each unit and what I thought of them over the course of the event, what they did, what their roles were, and if I would keep them in the list. So running through real quick characters, I have a Def Killer Wartrike with the Waz Blast, so that lets him fire and fade 6 inches every time he shoots. Didn't ever really come up, maybe one time to help move block something. Then I played 3 45-point mechs. They just get to follow around the Rocket Truck Squig Buggies the entire game, do actions for free, and make those guys hit on 5s, which doesn't make them, which basically means that the Rocket Trucks are not worthless the entire game. Then I have Mr. Zodgrod Wartsnega. He's the best. He's pretty much should be in every single orc list. He gives the Gretchen Scout 9, +1 to wound, +1 to hit, and -1 to wound. It's a very annoying unit to have, for your opponent to have to deal with. Shove him in their deployment zone turn 1 if you call the wall, which I did every time I went first. Then other data sheets. These are real things. I promise these are all real units. The Boomdock Snazwagon, I played 3 of it. He says anything that's not a monster vehicle within 6 inches is just flat -1 to hit. So what I did with this guy a lot was just shove him up the middle, try and make sure he was in range of any of my buggies I thought were going to get charged by something that matters. And he just sort of did a blanket debuff for my opponent's charging models. It was relevant enough for me to keep it at 3 because it's probably the best like trash buggy to throw around because it's the most durable. Then I have the best thing in the list, which is 18 Def Koptas. So there's 4 rockets in each unit and 2 custom Mega Blastas. This unit takes all the stratagems insanely well in the detachment. Sustain 2, lethals on 5s. So these are the guys who are going to be really, really destroying your opponent's strong units over the course of the game. They rapid ingress with Deep Strike, and they have a fun little mortal wound on a 4+ if you fly over somebody. So you get to do 6 dice on a 4, you get to do mortal wounds. Super awesome. They do a lot of damage, and they do the heavy lifting for the list for sure. So be careful with these. You want to make sure you get your money's worth on each of their shots. Absolutely. Then I have 20 Gretchen. They go with Zod. They Scout 9, move 12, advance and charge on the Wa turn. They're your jail unit for the list. 3 Megatrek Scrapjets. They suck at hitting anything. However, they do have a really fun mortal wound thing when they charge. So you get to stack that with a tank shock, and you get to kill the stuff that you chipped off quite a bit with the other 20 units that you have. Then my favorite unit in the list probably was the Rocket Truck Squig Buggy. People make fun of this guy. However, when he's hitting on 5s and 4s the whole game with the mech, the tax that it puts on your opponent over the course of 5 turns and not being able to be safe is really valuable. And you can tag something with -2 to move, advance, and charge on a 4+ when you hit him with a little squig thing. And the last little piece of this unit is they have a 4+, start of any phase. They have a Squig Mine, which does D6 mortals. So a lot of times these buggies are all going to be close together, and they always advance and charge. They always fall back and charge. They always advance and shoot, and they always fall back and shoot. So they can be wherever they want all the time. You get to just take 2 or 3 tries at a D6 mortal wound thing. If you hit 3 of them, 2 of them, you'll kill whatever you want pretty much that turn. It's really cool. 3 Shock Jump Dragstas. When they advance, they get to Deep Strike. Pretty cool, honestly. And with the new buff, they get to charge out of it as well, which they couldn't before. So you can kind of deploy these way in the back of your deployment zone. They go up, and they come back down 9 inches away from something, shoot their funny little precision dev wound gun. It's, I think, 8-2 D6 +1, and it hits on a 3. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the only gun that hits on a 3 in the entire Orc Codex. He popped off and killed a Draxus with dev wounds. It killed a Watchmaster with dev wounds. It put like 7 dev on a Guo. It just randomly does cool damage, and it's super mobile around the board. And it's one of those units that doesn't take up space because you can just put it in corners and things like that because it just gets to teleport everywhere. Super funny unit. I liked it a lot. And lastly, I had 6 Warbikers. They go with the Def Killer Wartrike, who always allows them to advance 6. So the unit's always moving 18 inches all the time because it can shoot and charge now. So this was the paired unit I had with Zodgrod, who I was jailing with on the turn 1s that I got to have. So overall, I really, really liked my list. I'm not sure that I would really change a lot, if I'm being honest. The most significant change probably me moving around points from the Boomdog or Snazwagons because they do the least amount of damage. But again, everything in this list has a really cool use. I want to play a Daka Jet. Daka Jets are super funny in this attachment. I made a short on that. Take a look. So, overall, this list is really strong. And I'm going to talk about now kind of where I feel like it sits among other orc detachments. If I'm going to play it again, how I feel it would be in a team environment. All right, so in terms of my RTT experience, run one, I played against Green Tide, against a little bit of a newer player. So I was talking through a lot of things with him and making sure that we were both on the same page, helping him out. So that round didn't really count to me as a player, but I got to see sort of the damage that the squig buggies and all that can put out against T5 bodies, and was able to destroy Gork and Morkanaut relatively easily with the Def Koptas, with the Sustain 2 and the Lethals. So I got to do a lot of damage checks I was looking for, but in terms of the rest of it, I sort of took my foot off the gas because I wanted to make sure we had a fun game. But it did end up being a 20-0 for me, which was something I was looking at. So it was a 20-0 there. And round two, I paired into Jack Harpster, who was playing Imperial Agents. And that matchup is grindy and a little bit cringe, but it was honestly a ton of fun. If you guys haven't played against a good agent pilot, you will find that army and detachment is incredibly frustrating and shockingly durable. So that match came down to kind of who went first. Jack did win the roll, so he went first. So I had 3 infiltrating subductors in my deployment zone, which took me like a turn to kill. So I'm cutting through agents for 2 or 3 turns. Basically, when I finally got out of my deployment zone, the game kind of rolled off the rails from there. I did end up dropping to 10-10 on this one. I think if I went first, it would have been significantly more in my favor, just because I was able to play the game on the midline versus in my deployment zone. And I made a little key deployment issue that allowed Zod to get tapped by Draxus, unfortunately, out of a Rhino coming up the middle. So overall, though, matchup felt fine. This honestly is the hardest thing for me to kill the whole weekend, which is weird. But agents are a lot more annoying than I think people are giving them credit for. So shout out to Charlie and Jack for being the only 2 agent players that could probably play the list any good. So that was a great round. Had a lot of fun. Jack's awesome. So and then round 3, I played against the 4 Great and Clean one Nurgle Demon detachment, the one that puts out all the battle shocks. Luckily, the really good abilities only don't affect vehicles, so it didn't impact me too much. What I was worried about before the matchup was what kind of damage I can put out into Great and Clean ones, which I hadn't really tested that at all. So my thought was I was really going to struggle to kill those guys. However, that was not the case. I kept just putting up my Def Kopta units were able to kind of split off on their own. One of them takes Sustain 2, the other one takes Lethal 5s. And those 2 units, between the sheer mass of cringe buggy rockets and blastas and all the things, ended up taking those guys down really, really well. And that made me feel incredibly good about this detachment going forward. Because I was able to kill all 4 Great and Clean ones and essentially completely table Nurgle Demons by the bottom of 4. So bottom 5, I just scored whatever I wanted. And it was Purge the Foe against that as well. So I ended up dropping a 19-1, which I will absolutely take for like a performance from this attachment. So the damage is way better than I thought. If you play your Def Koptas correctly, between the mortals from their moves ability, grenades, tank shock, scrap jet tank shock, dev wounds from the little dragster, you can end up doing a lot of damage with this attachment. And Sustain 2 rockets is really, really strong, along with Lethal 5s is also really, really strong. The detachment overall feels awesome. So my final closing thoughts on the detachment as a whole is that it is fantastic. I had so much fun playing it over the weekend. I believe that in a team setting, this is the type of detachment that just will farm 20-0s. There are so many armies that just can't deal with this many random 7 wound or 9 wound T7 bodies that just have outrageous board control and are always everywhere all the time. No matter what you do, every single one of these buggies is activating every single turn. You can fall back, shoot and charge, advance, shoot and charge. There's nothing that you cannot do in this attachment. So if you get paired into a solid matchup through a team's pairing process, I am so confident that a capable player will be able to consistently drop 20 Ls with it. Now, is the attachment perfect? No. No, it is not. Number one, you fatigue with this attachment quite a bit. If you were to play 5 rounds of Warhammer with this, you are rolling just an outrageous amount of dice that are terrible. Okay, you have to shoot all your twin big shooters. You have to shoot all your little trash guns the whole game because they add up. You're shooting hundreds of big shooter shots every single turn, and you're just forcing your opponent to take 3 up, 2 up, 4 up armor saves the entire turn. So from that perspective, it can be a bit exhausting. And then 2, going into time, if you're not really on top of your data sheets and have all your turns planned out in advance, you will go into time playing this attachment correctly. So I would suggest before you try and pilot this in a tournament, you play 2 or 3 practice games to where you can memorize all the fun little orc guns, because you've got the mech special, you've got the custom mega blaster, you've got the twin link big shooter, you've got the grot blasters, you've got the sawed off shotguns. You have all these little garbage guns that just are very important that you shoot, because there's so many of them. Your opponent will just start to fail saves, and that's how you're going to do your damage. Oh, also the squig mine, the squig buggy, rocket truck squig blast, whatever that is. So just keep that in mind. I make sure you go into an event prepared on how to play this army, because if you're looking up, how many shots does this have the entire game, I guarantee you will go into time and you will probably lose. So please be careful of that. And then third, it is susceptible to being move blocked. It is susceptible to being jailed. Now, I'm thinking of maybe playing Burnos or something like that to just drop on the line so your opponent can't do that. But again, you're going to be playing this in teams, and in teams, you're not going to be run into that stuff, because you're going to tell your captain, hey, I'm going to go 20-0 that person. Let me get this matchup. And you're not going to get jailed because you're the jailer. And that's really it. I mean, detachment is incredibly fun. I promise all these, your opponent's going to be like, is that a real name of this? It's just a great detachment to play. The buggies look super cool, and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be playing it at the next few events that I'm at, and also be playing at ATC in Might Man tournament. So that's really all the coverage I have for it, guys. If anyone has any cool suggestions on maybe what I can change on the list, pop a comment. But besides that, this is my first real long form video of me talking. So give me feedback is what I'm really, really appreciating right now. My goal is to make 50 videos and see how it feels when I'm done, right? So please like and subscribe. If you like this sort of video, I'll happily cover other people's lists in the same way. And yeah, thank you guys. Like and subscribe.